welcome to Elm Colors. I'm Erica. On today's video, I'm going to be doing the color along for Mythographic Aquatic. This is my focus book for May, and so I picked a page from this book to color along with you guys. And the page that I picked was this one, and I really liked it. I thought it was a very cool image. I was very taken with this this guy right here. I had a viewer tell me what it is, and of course I cannot remember what it is. It starts with a P maybe, but I was able to look up some inspiration images of that mythical character, and I'm really taken with the colors in this one, so I'm feeling very drawn to this inspiration image, so I think that's the direction I'm going to go. Yeah, I just think it's so pretty. Okay, I'm going to grab my alcohol markers that I want to use, and we will get started. All right, I grabbed a few of my Copic and Ohuhu markers, just in a few different colors that I thought would do well. I'm going to use this Copic for the background, so I'm just going to go through and do that really quick. The background's not going to be anything crazy this time, just kind of a basic background, so yeah, so just really quickly filling in wherever I think there might be a background. I know sometimes on these earlier Joseph Catimbang illustrations, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes where the background is because there's a lot of just kind of stuff everywhere. So I'm just going to do the best I can and fill in the whole background with this alcohol marker color, and I will be right back with you guys. Okay, that's, I think, all of the background stuff. There's like a lot of areas around in here where I think like maybe there's some rocks on this side, and then of course all of like the broken building and everything in here. So yeah, I am going to be ignoring, there's one hidden object in here. I'm just going to ignore it. So it's this one right here, and I'm just going to color over it like it's not even there. Well, it's a sword. No, I'll keep it. I thought it was just like a corkscrew, but I see the rest of the sword. I'm gonna keep it in there. I do kind of like that. Okay, so then I've grabbed like this golden-y brown. It's just like a really light beige, but I think it'll be a good base layer to do like a golden kind of stone work, which I kind of feel like this is really giving me golden stone for some reason. So I'm going to use this Y11 from the Ohuhu set. And basically, I think I'm just going to, anywhere where there's some kind of damaged structure, I'm going to give it a base coat of this color, and we'll go from there. So it's a lot of stuff that's in the background. And it's going to be kind of hard. Like most of it is not too hard to see, but when you get down into the bottom parts of the page, it kind of gets a little iffy. So this stone tablet, I think I'm going to make that maybe just a slightly different color than the rest. And the stone that I feel like is over here, that is also going to be a little bit different from the rest of the stonework. Okay. I also am going to have to switch my tip for my marker. So if you guys haven't seen this done before, this is how you flip your Ohuhu tips. You just pull it out. You can use a pair of tweezers, something like that instead, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. This end is kind of flimsy, and this end's nice and sharp. So when I push this back in, hopefully it'll work. And you want to grab it on the sides. You don't ever want to push it from the top. So there we go. There's my marker right back to where it needs to be. And I have a better tip now to use. And the Ohuhus, you do get, you can buy replacement tips, which is really nice. And there are a few now that come with replacement inks. But I know that Ohuhu is really having a hard time keeping things in stock right now because the demand is like crazy for everything. Since that cute and simple coloring has taken over. Everybody's wanting alcohol markers, and they're one of the best companies. So yeah, that's kind of just in case you're wondering, you know, where are all the alcohol markers? That's where they're at. All right, so I'm taking a guess up at the top here. I'm not really sure what is what, but I'm just going to guess that that is all that stuff. Okay, I'm going to color a few more things, and then anywhere where I'm not quite sure, or think maybe that you guys might be unsure of, I will zoom you in and we'll kind of go over those parts that I see are stonework together. Okay, so this whole area down here, I think I'm going to treat as all stonework. Even this little mask, I think that's going to be, well, maybe I'll hold off on that. I might come back and color it the same color as the stonework, but I might not too. And my marker is trying to die on me, so that's not great. Make sure you're using markers that aren't going to die halfway through your project. Now there's bits and pieces inside there that I'm not quite sure what they are, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to color like part of it, like the background rock color that I'm going to use on this side, and then part of it because I know the perfect circles are like the glowy dot bits, but there's like odd shapes. I don't know if those are just part of the rock. I'm not sure. So that's where you can kind of just use your imagination and try to figure out what you think it is and go with it. And nobody else is really going to know if it's right because, well, basically because nobody else really cares as much as you do. Just putting that out there. It's all in your head. There are no coloring police that are going to come and tell you that you've done it wrong. So just color things how you like. That's really the takeaway from this whole thing. Okay, so all of this here is stonework, which I see. And there's some kind of sea creature of some sort growing on it. All right, I feel like this is part of that wall as well. And all of this down here is, well, maybe not right there, but starting here, this is all going to be brickwork and stonework. It might make sense to make these boulders the same color as the buildings too. I don't know about that though. I want you to be able to tell the difference between what is like old building and what is the actual like natural seafloor, kind of. Okay, so that marker made it through just barely. Okay, cool. Oh, no, there's a little bit here. Darn it. And you're always going to miss something, so don't put your stuff away until you're completely sure that everything has been colored. I always miss something every time I color. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on back behind the fish here. I feel like it might be some more sea stuff, so maybe I'll just come in with the turquoise, but this would be growing out of something. So I'm going to color back behind this little sea creature a little bit of stone right there. With that part, I am going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and color this tablet the same color as the stones. I grabbed a warm gray, and I'm just going to try to avoid like coloring over anything that might be like a sea life creature. Okay, guys, what do we think? Did I get everything? I feel like I think I have. Not sure. I'm going to go ahead and color this little bit with the same color too. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit. I feel like that's a good start. All right, so I did grab a few colors that I do like for the main character here. Trying to figure out how I want to do this. It's very interesting dynamic to have the tail and the feathers and the fur and all of it mashed into one character. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. The wings I feel like should be, I want them to be bright like they are in the illustrations that I had found. And I think I'm going to go with this turquoisey color. It's like a muted. And then this pink. These two colors for sure. Yeah, okay, so this is probably going to look a little crazy when I first do it, but just like I've been saying for the past month, and every time I do one of these now, let's try to trust the process and see what it gets us. Okay, so I'm going to start with E110. So this is from my mid-tone Ohuhu set, and I'm going to start it on the antlers. This is going to be really dark. Let's not do that one for the antlers then. All right, I'm throwing another color in, so I'm using Y120. So this is from the pastel set. And so I'm just going to give all of the antlers a good coverage of this color. Okay, now I'm going to use this E110, and I'm going to give the legs a little bit of, well, those ends in, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm just going to give it a little bit of this color. And then also that's going to get a little bit on the ear and a little bit on the back of the neck here. It's not going to be very much at all because I really want, well, maybe I want a little bit more on the, let's do the whole ear, just kind of around the top of the head. There we go. We'll do that. Okay. Next is this beautiful turquoisey. Oh, I just used the wrong color. Let's try that again. So this is BG8. Again, if you don't have these colors, that's totally fine. You can just use the colors that you have that are similar. You never have to have the same supplies as me. You can try to, you know, make it work on your own. So I'm going to map this out for a second because I want this part here to be white, definitely. I'm going to have some green kind of coming out into that. This whole section around the wing and onto the wing is going to be green. Well, whatever this color is, teal. Okay, and then I'm going to have this green color kind of continue down the tail. But I'm also going to put some of the pink on the tail that I have pulled out, so I don't want it to be completely green. I feel like that's good. I'm going to grab the pink that I have, and that's going to go kind of next to, try to leave a little bit of a gap between the pink and the green because I don't want to mix those together. That'll give me an icky color. So when I come in with my pencils, I can work on a little bit of that. All right, and then I'm going to leave most of this white as well. Okay, and then we're gonna do pink on the paws, on the legs a little bit. Cool, and then, you know, a little bit up around his face to be green, whatever, that's okay. Okay, so wings. Again, I'm going to use this E1, whatever it is, to color along the edge on that side. And then we're going to do green. That is not the right color. I keep picking up the wrong colors. Oh, geez. Okay. Again, this is definitely a kind of trust the process image until it's done. I am going to do, let's do a couple, let's do a couple rows of the green. Okay, then I'm going to do the pink. Okay, and then I think I'm going to leave the rest of it blank, and I'm going to do white. So I'll have white on the face, on the chest, on the big wings at the bottom, and then into a little bit of the paws and the tail. That's where it's going to be white. Okay, so her hair, I'm going to go ahead and do this color that is the same as the fur color on him. All right, and then last but not least, I'm going to use the pink to do her tail, and then that'll be all of my alcohol marker work done, and I'll come back in with pencils and we'll shade everything and do all that stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and give her tail a good base layer of color. One last little bit I'm just gonna go ahead, because I don't know what any of that stuff is down there, so we're just gonna make it all stonework. Okay, so here is where we're at before any colored pencils or anything. I know this looks like a crazy hot mess, but again, it's a whole trust the process mindset here on this channel, I guess now. I'm going to grab some colored pencils and we will get started on shading some stuff and shading like the stonework and stuff in the background. And maybe I'll grab some water-based markers and we can color like all of the little bits around as well. So that is my plan for the next step, and I will be back with you guys here in a second. All right, I grabbed a couple of my Cezanne pencils to do the background, and I have a couple of water-based markers. I do want to bring in one more, but that is not currently with me. So I'm going to use this yellow color on all of these fish really quick. I just thought the yellow would be a good color to offset what's going on in the background there. That's what I was thinking. Okay, so there's the yellows. I'm going to use this pink color on, let's see, what do I have the most of? I have a lot of these little guys. I have a couple of these things. I have a little bit of coral. I think I'm going to use these on the little, whatever these are called. They're probably anemones, right? Anemones. All right, and then I also have this thing that's back here, but I don't really know what it is, so it's just going to be pink. So maybe it's some kind of big coral piece or something that's sticking out back there. All right, so let me zoom you in and we'll get started on some of this stonework in the background. All right, so I have Cezanne number 119, number 88, and number 86. And these are just 3 browns that I picked out because they look kind of, I don't know, decent. So I'm going to start with my darkest brown really lightly in a couple of spots. Shade out from there with the other colors. And then if I need to later on, I can come in with a black or like a really dark navy blue color to do more shadows and stuff. But I just wanted to get this kind of done here. Now the other thing that I can do is I have some paint pens that might be fun to draw like little, I don't know, things growing on the sea, on the stonework in the seabed. But I could also do that with some colored pencils as well. So for example, I'm going to try this Cezanne number 62. So this is just a little bit of a teal color, but I think it would be a good, it just kind of shows a little bit of wear and tear on the pillar. Yeah, and then I'm just going to blend that out a little bit with a white, my white Posca. So I have some lighter areas and some darker areas. There we go. So that's kind of be how like all of the pillars and stuff look for the, grab another color too. All right, and then I'm going to grab a pink as well. So I'll add in some pink and turquoise into the background stones, and I feel like that's just going to make it look even cooler. All right, so on these stones, I'm going to pick like an area that I want to have a little bit of shadow. I feel like since it's underwater, like there's not really a whole lot of stuff that my brain can figure out, like lighting effects and stuff, because I'm not really, my light source is just going to be from the front. Like I'm not trying to have cool lighting effects or anything like that, but yeah, I feel like this will be good enough. Again, it's not something that is, you know, supposed to be the center of the image, so, you know, you don't have to do too much to these things to make it look good. Now I grabbed this goldeny ochre color just to kind of bring that gold back, because I knew my browns were going to tone it down quite a bit. All right, and then I'm going to bring in, well, I've already got where my alcohol marker has kind of gone over the edge of the stone, so I'll put in a little bit of turquoise in a couple of spots. I'm going to bring in some pink in a couple spots. There we go. So I hope that looks, you guys can see kind of how that's going to look. And then if you know you want to blend it out, you can use your white. You could use a cream, would be a really good blending color on this one. Yeah, so anytime you see stonework, like the columns like this and the stonework like this, that's kind of gonna be the same combo all the way through. Down in the corner here, which if I can, this lip bit we might do together, because I know there's a lot of intricate little bits and pieces. And again, this is me just kind of guessing where the shading would be, with a little bit of, you know, I've been coloring for so long now. I'm getting better at it. I'm still not perfect, but you know, it kind of does help having that experience too. That's one of the things that is really good to remember. If you're new to coloring, like, it takes a little while for you to be able to get all the shading right. Like, you're not going to just jump in and make something perfect your first time around. It just doesn't happen that way. So yeah, just try to keep that in mind when you're doing a page. If you've never done something before, I'm really guilty of this. If, you know, if I've never done something before and I do it for the first time, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to be great at this. I've watched a YouTube channel or YouTube video. So yeah, I totally know how to do this now, right? And it just doesn't work that way. So just remember not to completely, you know, expect yourself to be perfect the first time or every time even. Lord knows I still have times where my pages look like crazy. And I look at it and go, what happened? I am just off my game today on this one. So down here in the corner, there's just weird random bits. So I'm just going to add a little bit of shading to bits and pieces in the hopes that that's the right thing to do. So yeah, you can kind of see where I've got the shadows in there. So now I'm just going to, from there, expand the shadows with this middle tone, this middle brown tone. Okay, and then I'm going to do the last one with kind of coloring over those two and expanding that color out even more into the base layer with my golden kind of color here. And all of these layers are not, I'm not pushing hard at all. You don't want to, especially with some of these other, these kind of pencils, like the Cezanne pencils, they're a decent pencil. I do like them, but if you push too hard, especially on specific papers, if you push too hard right away, you're not going to be able to layer anything. So it's nice to be able to have that, that option to layer once you get some of your color down on your page. So yeah, you can kind of see that. I mean, you can definitely see the difference between this side and this side over here. All right, I am going to do the same thing with the turquoise and the pink though. So I'm going to add a little bit of turquoise here. Again, pretty lightly adding that color on. I'm not pushing hard. There, I pushed a little too hard. That's okay, because I can lighten it up. Adding different colors in like this too, to like stonework or rocks or buildings or whatever, It does add a fun little bit of difference too, because every once in a while you see just that hint of turquoise and you're like, wait, that's not really supposed to be there, but it looks kind of cool there now. So and the other thing that I can do is if I decide I wanted to make this look like a growth of some sort on the stonework, I can come in with my Poscas later on and add in like a few Posca dots on top of that, and it kind of looks like something's growing there. There. So yeah, so it's a small touch, but it does help a little bit. And I think once we get all of that stonework colored in, we'll be good to go. So I'm going to go off screen and take care of that. And you go do yours. And when we get back, we'll work on the next step. Okay, got all of the stonework colored in. I'm going to hold this up a little closer so you can kind of see all the details. You can see all the little bits of turquoise and pink kind of spread around throughout the stonework. I think it looks pretty cool. Okay, so next, I think we're going to just take care of this big dude here. I think that's going to be the best next step. So I've got a couple of colors pulled. I'm going to start with this turquoisey green color, do a little bit of shading on that. I'm still sticking with my Cezanne pencils, and then we'll move on to the other bits of this guy. If I could remember what he was called, I want to say it's a Peryton, maybe, but that could just be some weird random thing that I'm thinking of. Anyway, so I've got a couple of Cezanne pencils. So I have number 66, number 95, and number 65. I've got this is like a really dark blue-gray color, and then a very lovely dark blue-green color, and then a lighter blue-green color. It's kind of closer to the color of the marker. And then I'm also going to be using my white Prisma. And the Cezanne pencils don't keep their point quite as long as I prefer, but these are the pencils that I have on hand, so I'm going to make it work. Let me zoom in on him really quick. Okay, so this is the same color combo I'm going to use for his fur, as long as this works. His fur, her hair, and then the green parts on his tail down at the bottom of the page as well. So I'm going to start with this blue-gray color, and that's going to go in the darkest shadowy areas. And again, this is going to be the same kind of combo all the way through. And then wherever I am able, I will also be adding in like little fur strokes, because this basically is like, to me, this reads as fur, feathers, and then like mermaid tail down here. And so I'll try to shade it accordingly. The fur and the feathers won't be too different, but the mermaid tail will be just a tiny little bit. I don't have to do as much detail work on the mermaid tail, because I probably won't do like each of the scales individually. I'll probably do bits and pieces here and there. So, okay. So I'm going to do a little bit of this chest area here, and we'll do a little bit of one of the wings. And then we'll come back and I'll work on the tail a little bit as well. And with this dark color, I'm going to go right along this white area, because I want this ruff of fur here, I want that all to be white. So I really want this darker color underneath here so that I can I'm going to come in and use my white Posca and really bring the fur texture to life a little bit more. Okay. All right. I like the shadowed bit, so I'm just going to extend that color out a little bit. I'm using just little kind of rough strokes. They're not perfect, and I'm coloring very lightly, not putting a lot of pressure on anything. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same with this lightest color, and this is really just to kind of blend everything out a little bit more. Okay, and then like I said previously, this is not really my favorite combo for fur texture, but I'm going to try. So I'm going to go back to this blue-green color. So this is number 66. It's the dark one. And I'm going to add in a few fur strokes randomly. And after I draw a few, I'm going to lift my pencil up and spin it so that I can always have a pretty decently sharp point on the end of my pencil. And I want to randomly space out these strokes of fur. You don't want to do it perfectly crossed, perfectly straight. You want it to be very, that's not the right word. You want them to be different. You don't want them to have a uniform look, is what I'm trying to say. And then you want to make sure that you're always going in the direction of the fur as well. So pay attention to how it like curves around the animal and flows and everything. So like around this part here, you can see me kind of curving the fur a little bit. And then this fur up here is curving down over because it's like coming over the end there. Okay. So you can kind of see how that looks different, at least now. And then I'm going to use my white and do the same kind of thing where I just kind of bring in the white and I'm just highlighting the direction of the fur. So I'm just barely touching, and this is going to create some nice highlights in the fur texture as well. Okay. So yeah, so that's what all of the fur texture will look like. Let's do this little bit of wing right here. It's going to be really similar. I'm actually trying to decide, like on this part up here, I'm going to have this brown come into the green a little bit more with my pencils, but I'm trying to decide if I want to draw in like feather bits. I hope that makes sense. Like feather texture. That's what I'm trying to say. I just can't use my words. I'm going to use this, I'm using this lightest one to cover up any like areas where I've not gotten color like I want. I think what I'll do, so I've used this a little bit here, and then I'll have the brown kind of overlap into this green area a little bit. And then I'm going to use the darker green color, and I'm just going to swipe upwards from the edge of the wings. I think that will be texture enough. And I think, yeah, and then right around in here is where it kind of stops doing that. Again, I'm not like I don't know exactly what I'm doing because I don't know like bird anatomy or anything like that, but this kind of is what looks right to me, I guess. So we're just gonna do a little bit of that. And again, I will bring in that brown color, kind of mix it in a little bit more, and then I'll use my white to give a few highlights to that, and then maybe a little bit right in here, and then along these areas here. Okay, I know that probably looks a little crazy. Let me show you this next row of feathers as well. I'll start with that dark blue again and go right under the edge of all of these feathers. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to the darker green, and this is a light layer here. And then a little bit of the lightest turquoisey green color, which I didn't actually use on this side, so maybe I should spread that out a little bit. Maybe that'll, yeah, I feel like that's a little bit better. Yeah, and then use the dark green and flick upwards. And then use the white to do that as well. Okay, I'm going to try to darken up underneath the wings a little bit more because I want, especially in certain areas, I want it to be very dark. And that's going to create the depth, the look that it is layered in there. I'm trying to ignore these big white circles everywhere too, because I will make those look glowy later. But as of right now, they're just kind of there. Okay, so that's kind of what the wings will look like, all the green ones. And then I'm going to show you a little bit of the tail here. So we'll just do this little bit here. Again, I don't think I'm going to go into super detail on this, so I'm going to add a little bit of shading to the edge of the tail, and then blend it in, and then blend that even further. And then in this area here where I've left some white, so I didn't want my markers to mix, so I'm just going to extend it in certain areas with the pink. This is the 110, so this is the pink that I was using on the stonework in the background previously. So I'm going to do a little bit of extending with this pink, and then I will also do a little bit of extending with this kind of green color, and we'll see kind of how that goes. I want it to look like they are merging together, or yeah, I don't want it to just be like a straight shot of color. And then with the dark green one again, I'm going to pick a few scales here and there to kind of give a little bit of darkness and shadow to. And then I will put a few white highlights on some of the scales. And when I come in to do the shading on the pink, I don't know, I'm not sure how I feel about that now. I don't necessarily love the combination of those two, but I feel like it needed to be blended. That color needed to be continued onto the tail a little bit. So yeah, so that is what the tail is going to look like. There's not much more of the tail left to shade. I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of the fur and the feathers on both wings. And then her hair is going to be very similarly done with the same color palette, but we might hold off and do her last. So let's just focus on this guy right now. So yeah, I'm going to go off screen, finish those off, and then we'll come back and we'll work on the pink areas, and then we'll do the white last. All right, got all of the green parts done, except we're going to leave the mermaid for later. So I'm going to work on the pink and the brown sections of the creature. I've got a couple of different pinks. So I have number 55, number 110, and number 116 from my Cezanne set, plus my white. So it's just basically a dark, medium, and lighter pink. I'm going to do similar things on the wings here like I did for the green section. So we'll start with the darkest right underneath the top layer of feathers here. Okay, and then I'll blend that out a little bit with the next lightest color. And then I don't know if this lightest one will even really do anything. Yeah, that doesn't really do very much at all. So we're not even going to worry about that one. I'm just going to do these two pinks and the white. Okay, so then I'm going to take the dark pink again, and we're going to flick upwards from the end of the feathers here. And then use the white to do the same. I am going to darken up any areas where I can see that the feathers are overlapping, like certain feathers are overlapping others. I'm going to definitely darken up those areas a little bit with this dark pink. And then I'm going to use this dark blue that I used earlier to just darken up the shadows under the wings a little bit more. Okay. Oh, I should probably zoom you in for that. Sorry. So yeah, there you go. Now you got a different, little bit better look of what the feathers will look like shaded. So I will do all of the feathers that same way. And then we'll work on a little bit of the fur texture here and a little bit of the tail. So I've got a little bit of pink fur going into the pink tail. At least that's how I see it. So I think I'm going to start actually with this number 95. So this is just like a really dark blue-gray color. Makes a pretty good shadow color. So we're just going to start with that one. I'm going to use this lighter pink to try to fill in all of the holes around that I have. Since I'm so great with my alcohol markers, adding in some kind of fur brush strokes here. In these areas where I've left white, I am going to go ahead and continue to leave those white, but I'm going to be using the lighter pink to kind of make it look like there's a little bit of fur there. Okay, and then on the scales, we're going to do kind of the same thing that we did with the darker ones, where we're going to pick a few areas to just add a nice shadow to. All right, and I'm going to use the white to make these areas here look like they're definitely more fur than scales. All right, and then I just have the little sections here on the legs, so I'm just going to add the darker color in first. And again, just trying to do a few little strokes of fur here. I feel like that looks crazy, but those are the three things. That's the way I'm going to color all of it. So I'm going to go off camera, finish the rest of the wings and this other foot, and I will be back and we'll work on the white areas, or maybe the brown areas of the creature. Okay, there is the pink areas done. Now we're going to zoom in and do the little bits of brown that we have here. I have a couple pencils pulled again from the Cezanne set. It's number 83 and number 85. I'm going to use the darker one as the shading, you know, and all the shadows. And then the lighter brown will be to blend everything out. And also to blend into the other colors that are on the creature. So around the face here, I'm going to kind of blend that down. This is a part where probably it'll get a little bit tricky because I'm going to try to figure out how I want this to go. So typically around eyes, I kind of go, you kind of do like a little, you kind of follow the direction of the eye and flick outwards from that. So I think that's what I'm going to do there. And then this part, there we go. And then along the nose, I'll flick down the snout a little bit farther. And then we'll add in a few dark flicks of hair out that way. Okay, I feel like that looks decent. We've got this little bit of wing over here to do. I'm just going to use the dark brown to flick inwards from the edges. I'm going to use this lighter brown to see if I can blend it into the wings a little bit, because I want it to look like it's just like two different shades of fur that are overlapping each other, not necessarily a line. I don't know if I can get that quite the way that I'm wanting, but just want to make that line a little bit uneven so that it doesn't look like it's just a straight line across. Same for this one. All right, and then his little legs here. So the way that I see this one is like he's bent his leg backwards. So this bit of fluff back here, that's all going to be white because it'll be like the bottom of his foot. So he's just got a little bit of, oh, that's the wrong one. A little bit of fur on his legs in this color. Now I did take all of these colors just straight from that inspiration image that I liked the best. This is not anything that's straight from my brain, and this is just me trying to replicate it the best that I can. All right, and I feel like that's okay there because I feel like the hair would overlap the brown there, the green bit. Okay. All right, I think that looks pretty cool. Let's work on the white sections now. Okay, around the deer's face and the chest, we're gonna do a combination of 110 and number 62. So these are the two colors that I added to the brickwork in the background. And I'm going to sparingly use these to create a white fur. So just very lightly in some of the shadowed areas. And that just gives you, you know, the shadowed look. And so then I'll come in a few other spots with the pink. Again, very, very lightly. It's all done super lightly. And then we will blend it all together with the white. Okay, and then, so I think this color is too blue, so we're gonna bring in another color. So we're gonna bring in this number 65, and I'm gonna just over top of the areas where I did the blue already, I'm gonna try to do a little bit of this greenish color and see if that will be a better fit. It still looks a little blue, but from here on out, I'll be using this other color. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use number 95, so that's that bluish gray color, to really bring in those shadows. So anywhere where it's pretty dark, I'm going to definitely darken that up. I'll use my white Posca to add in some hair strokes as well, as long as this is going to cooperate with me. All right. I had to go get a new Posca, but I feel like that is going to help here. I'm just going to add in a few strokes with that. Okay. So that's that little bit here is how this all of the feathered areas are going to go. So here, here, and here will all be the same. This part, let's do the wings over here. So this is going to be a little bit different. Again, I'm going to start with the bluish gray color just underneath the upper layer of the wings. I'm also going to go anywhere where you can tell that feathers overlap each other. I'm going to add in some shadows there. All right, and then just really light strokes down with that color, and then back up. Super, super light touch. Don't want to push too hard on this. The green color, so this is number 65. Again, very, very lightly. Mostly from the bottom of the wing. And then I'll use the pink, which is, again, number 110. And I'm just going to do a few little swatches through the middle of the wing. Okay, so that's what it'll look like. You might not even be able to see that. All right, and then I'm going to use my white. And we're just gonna blend all that together the best we can. All right, so that'll be what that looks like. I am gonna try something really quick. So I'm gonna take the dark green. So I've got this dark green color, so that's the number 66, and I'm gonna try to extend this color down into the lighter color a little bit. So hopefully you can see what that's doing. It's just random little flicks of that green into the pink. And then we're going to do the same thing with the pink into the white. So again, I'm taking number 116, which is the darkest pink that I had. And I'm just going to bring that color down into the white a little bit. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to do that on those sides, because then I'm also going to use my white Posca to extend these feathers a little bit. Just kind of gives a little bit more of an illusion of that they're actually feathers, and it gives some texture to it. So I'm going to zoom you back out so you can see that, but then I'm going to go off screen and do the rest of the white sections. So yeah, so that's what it looks like far away. So I think that'll look cool. I'll finish those off and I will be back with you guys here in just a second. Okay, got all of the white feathers done and the white fur along the chest of the creature, whatever this is. I'm gonna do a little bit with the eyes and the tail and the antlers here. And then, yeah, that's our next step. So let me zoom you in for the eyes here. So there were a couple different things I wanted to do. I thought about making them glow. I thought about all kinds of things, but I think I'm just going to completely black it out and then put a little bit of highlight dots in there. I'm also going to use my black to kind of darken up the nose on this here. But yeah, I think I'm just going to black it all out. I kind of like that better. And I'm also going to reinforce the line around the eye. There we go, yeah. And then I'll just do like a little white dot there, little white dot on the nose. That's good. Okay, and then what did I say? The tail was next, right? Yep. So the tail is going to be basically the same as all of the fur and stuff, but I'm going to use, I think, more turquoise and pink and a little bit less of the blue color. Yeah, I feel like that's a good mix. I mean, I'm going to make this all pink right here. Grab the dark pink that I've got here. So this is just a combination of a few of the colors, same colors that we've been using through this whole thing. But then I'm just going to extend the pink kind of out this way and a few swipes back that way, focusing on where any like shadows would be. Do the same with the teal color that's over here. All right, and then I'm just going to use the white over top of that. I am going to come back in and use a little bit of a darker pink on a couple of spots on the tail here, and a little bit of this blue color in a couple of spots on this side. Okay. And then we'll use the white. Again, I'm just adding some, it's almost like hair, but it's not quite. Remember, since you've got that layer of white Prismacolor down, if you get white anywhere you don't want it, you can really easily just kind of swipe it off. Once that wax layer is on there, the Posca is less likely to soak into the page almost immediately. Okay, antlers next. And I think I'm just going to use a combination of some of the browns I've already had out. So we'll go with, all right, I'm going to go with number 83 and 88 plus the white Prismacolor. And I'll show you a little bit of the antler, and then we'll go from there. And then I'll probably just finish that off camera too. So I'm just going to add this little bit darker color into some of the areas where she's already got like texture lines in here for shading and stuff. Where the dots are thicker, the shadows will be darker. And where they're lighter, we'll do a little bit lighter. Okay, so we've got that color down. I'm going to use this lighter 88 color. Shade that out a little bit. And the same way that we did with the stonework in the background, I'm going to bring in that pink and that turquoise color, and we're going to add that in a couple places too. So I was using, let's just do these two. So 110 and not 65, that's too dark. 110 and 62. I'm going to start with the turquoise, and that will be, I'll add that in the areas where like there's a little bit more shadow. And then the pink would be in areas there's a little bit of a highlight. And again, you don't want to push hard in those areas at all. And then I'm using the white to kind of bring out the highlights a little bit. Anywhere where there's like super dark spots here, I'm going to come in with the 95. So that's that blue color. And just kind of darken that up a little bit. Kind of same in the ear too, I think. There we go. But yeah, so like anywhere where there's a lot of dots, that's where I'm going to bring in that blue. Okay, let me show you this little bit of antler here. And then I will go off camera and finish off the rest of that. Again, I'm just bringing in that blue color anywhere where the shadows are super dark. And then bring in a little bit of turquoise in some places, a little bit of pink in some places. I feel like that'll be a cool mix of colors and make the antlers kind of look magical too, like the whole creature does. Okay, so yeah, so I'm just going to keep going with the antlers here, finish those, and then when we come back, we will work on the mermaid. That'll be our next step. So I'll be right back with you. Okay, here is the deer creature mermaid thing, whatever he's called. I'm gonna hold it up a little closer so you can kind of see a little bit of the details on him. I think he looks pretty nifty. So there's that. I am gonna add in just a little bit of detail again with the white Posca. I'm going to add in a few dots along his mermaid tail and a little bit of a highlight line. So we're going to do a little highlight line right there, a couple dots, and a little highlight line right here. And then we'll do a few dots randomly kind of throughout on the scales. And then also I'm going to do a few on the antlers up here. So I'm gonna add in a few white highlights on the antlers and then do just a few dots randomly. I'm not gonna do it all the way around. Like, I'm not gonna cover all those little black dots, but I want a few little dots in here. So yeah, so I'm gonna go through and do that, and I will be right back with you guys. All right, so that is done. Next steps would be to go ahead and get the mermaid done. I think that's going to be our next step. We're going to use a lot of the same colors. Her skin is going to be a little bit different, but I think we're just going to kind of play that by ear too. But I'm going to go ahead and do her hair and her tail, same way that I did these ones over here, but I'll show you a little bit of that real quick. We're going to work on her skin first, actually. So I'm going to grab my light pink and my light turquoisey colors. I guess this pale blue too, and my white. And I'm just gonna start adding in some, we're gonna start with shading. So I'm gonna use the 95, so that blue-gray color, to add a little bit of shadow. Okay, so there's a little bit of shading there. I'm just going to very gently blend that out so there's no harsh lines. I wish I had another like in-between color, but I don't want any super harsh lines there. Okay, so now I'm going to use the turquoise color, so this light blue color. We're going to blend outward a little bit from the dark blue that I've added in everywhere. All right, I'm bringing in another color. So this is a 91, so this is just an even lighter kind of turquoisey color. Again, one more layer of this color kind of around very lightly, just wanting to use it to add color where it needs to go. All right, I'm going to blend that out with my white. Okay, I'm going to use the 110. Yeah, 110. We're going to do pink on her lips, on her cheeks, and above her eyes, on her shoulders, her elbow, along her hand here, and then extending up from where the tail kind of ends here. We'll do a little bit more to that area too here in a second, but I'm just warming up some areas of her skin with the pink. And then I'm going to go through one more time with this darkest color. Actually, I'm going to make it more green, so I'm going to use 65 and just kind of go along where the shadows were and blend out from there. All right, we're going to use the 66, so this is like the darkest turquoisey green color. I'm going to use that to do her eyebrows here. I'm not going into super detail on her face just because I feel like this is not going to be, like, that's not really what it's a tiny little area, so I don't need a ton of shading or anything like that. So now I'm just kind of darkening up some of the shadows. So her little scales and stuff that are on there, I'm gonna use the blue color and just underline a few of them to create like a little bit of shadow on her face and her skin. So you can kind of see some of those scales. Okay, so there is her skin done. I'm going to grab my pinks now. So I'm going to use a combination of the pink that I was using earlier. So this is the 110. So this is my lightest pink, and I'm just, as I get to the edges of where the marker is, I'm going to do these little dots of color. So it'll be kind of like a continuation of that color into her skin, but I'm going to do that with the darker color here too. And then I'm going to use the darkest color for the shading on her tail. I just realized most of that was off camera. I am so sorry. I've just done this 116 and the 55 to do the shading around the outside edges of the tail, and then blended it out with this lighter color. And now I'm doing the same thing on the tail fin, adding the darkest color here, and then we're going to blend it out a little bit with the 55. All right, and then I'm going to use my white to add a little bit of highlights to the tail fin here, a little bit to some of the edges of her tail down here too. Okay. All right, I like that. I'm going to use the my white Posca now to just do a few dots on some of the scales on her tail. Do a few up that way too. We'll do a couple on her shoulder, a couple on her neck, on her arm. Okay, so tail and skin are done. Let's work on the hair really quick. It's going to be the same color combo that I used for the green on this guy over here. Actually, I might just do 2 colors. Yeah, so I'm going to use the dark green to add in the shadows. So we'll just kind of go through, and anywhere where there would be some shadows from this hair, add that in. Now there's these little tiny pieces like floating around her. I just colored them the same as her hair, but I don't know if that makes any sense really. So I'm not sure what I want to do with that, but just gonna do my best. All right, so there's that color, and then I will blend it out a little bit with this other color, next darkest one. And then I'll use my white to bring any highlights back out that I want. I am going to use this dark blue that we've been using, this dark blue gray, to just make sure that the darkest shadows are really dark. Okay. All right, so yeah, I'm just going to continue the hair on the other side, and I will be right back with you guys. Okay, I got her hair done, her skin done, her tail done. I'm going to work on her eyes really quick, and I was going to do them similar to the little deer guy, but I think I'm going to do them like this instead. So take a really sharp turquoisey green color and just add some color there. And then I have my black, which is also really sharp, and I'm just going to darken up the lash line. There we go. All right. So she's done. I gotta do something with this swirl around her, but I'm not quite sure what to do with that yet. I am gonna use the pink that I used, the pink marker that I used earlier on her shells. Yeah, add a little bit of darker pink into the insides of the shells and a tiny little bit of this green color around the outside edge. Okay, that's cool. All right, let me figure out what to do. I think I need to start doing some shading on these other little bits and bobs, and then we'll figure out. Okay, to start with, we're gonna work on the fish. So I'm gonna just use a little bit of a darker yellow than I already have on here from the markers. Just very minimal shading, nothing crazy. And then we'll use the white to kind of bring back any lighter areas that we can. Okay, and then I'm also going to add a little bit of a highlight there and some little dots on the fishy. And I'm going to do this on all of those fish. We've got all the coral on the page. I'm using this kind of peachy pink color, and I'm just going to give it a very light coat to start with. I feel like it's going to be a good base color, and then I will come in. I think I'm going to use like an orange color so that it makes it look a little bit more peachy. I don't want it to match the other pink stuff I already have on here. So we'll try this and see what happens. So I'm using a little bit of orange. Might as well add some yellow on there too and see what that does. I feel like maybe that's a good combo. And we'll add a few little dots on the coral because I like to do that. Okay. There's a tiny little bit of like these sea star thingies that are sticking up at the top there. So I'm going to add just a little bit of shading to that. This guy, all of these guys they started out pink, so I'm just going to keep them pink. Just with like super basic shading on there. These thingies are another thing that I need to figure out though. I feel like I could do them like a turquoisey color and it would be all right. So let's see what we can do with that. I'm going to start with the really dark green color that I had previously and kind of give certain areas a little bit of a darker color. Okay, so there's that one. We'll go to the next turquoise color that I have. Blend that out a little bit. All right, and then I'm going to use the blue, so that's a 91, number 91. Use that blue color that we used at the beginning on the stonework to kind of blend that all out in the background. I kind of feel like I should just do like dots along these lines. Well, I don't know if that's exactly what I was hoping for, but that is what I got. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for I'm going to color the other fish on the page. I'm going to color the rest of the coral, the rest of these little sea star things, and the other swirly thing that looks like that. And then I will be right back with you. Okay. Oh, I got to do the little dots on this side. But I'm going to kind of talk you through what we have left. Just it looks like just the rocks over here behind this little doodad that I'm coloring. And then the hidden objects that are in here. Thankfully, they kind of make sense with this scene. That's the really good thing about Joseph Catimbang's older books. Is yes, they have some hidden images, but they tend to go with the theme of the page. So that's always helpful. The only other thing that I see that I'm not sure what to do with, there's these little random, like this little spot right here. So that's like they look like little eggs. And there's a couple of them spread throughout the page, but I don't know what they are. So I might just color them as circles and be done with it. I think that's probably what I'm gonna do, because I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. Okay, so scroll is gonna be some of the same browns that I've used in the background. So I'm gonna zoom in so we can do. All right, so I have number 83, which is like that orangish brown kind of color. And I'm just gonna color the edges. Give it a little bit of color, and then I'm gonna go over top of that with the white. And then come over top of that again with this yellowy ochre kind of color. Okay, and then this little tag around here, we'll just do that in, I'm gonna do that with pink. And then a little bit of turquoise. I think I'm gonna try to make this similar to the background color. So I'm using one of the browns I had, which is like a medium tone brown. Okay, and then one more time with this like yellowy ochre color. And then I'm gonna use this turquoisey green color to add some color to the face and the pink. There we go. Nothing special. I'm not doing anything crazy with these. The knife now. All right, I don't really have a metal color that is my go-to for this, so I'm going to use a couple different grays. So I have a warm gray here, and then I have like this bluish gray color that I've been using as a shadow color in some of the other areas. And then I have the black. I feel like if I blend that out a little bit more with that light gray, I didn't want anything, I want it to look like it's maybe like an older kind of blade too. So maybe if I add a little bit of this greenish color, it'll look like it's, I don't know, changing its color or something. And then the handle is going to be like some browns just for like a leather grip. Nothing fancy. And I kind of want it to blend into the background anyway. So, okay, let me zoom you back out again. If you guys could see all the pencils I have off to the side here, it's crazy. All right, so last touches. I'm just going to do all of the white. The floaty circles, they're all going to be white. And then this little bit, I'm going to do white, but I'll probably add a little bit of Stickles on top of that. So basically just grabbing my Posca, you can use whatever kind of paint pen you have. And I'm just going to cover up these lines as best I can. And then I'll come over top of that with some Stickles probably. I'm not even sure what this part is actually supposed to be, but yeah, so I'll do that whole section with the Posca, and then on the circles here, so I'll show you this here really quick. I'm just outlining the circle, filling it in if I need to. Some of these circles might change colors too, so I might have to get out the P.H. Martin white, but so yeah, I'm just going to fill in all of the circles, and then for some of them, I'm going to draw little glowy bits around the outside. So I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see what those look like. So it's not anything super special, just a few lines around the outside of those. And I'm not going to do it for all of them, just like the bigger ones. But yeah, so I'm just going to go do that, and then when I come back, we'll be done. So I will talk to you again here in a second. Okay, here is the page. I really like the way that it ended up turning out. I think it turned out pretty cool. I am going to add just a little bit of Stickles to this little swirl around her. And then I'm also going to add it to just a few of the spots around the page too. I think. So let me do that really quick. All right, so that's it. That is the page. I was very hesitant when I first put the markers on here, but I think it turned out all right. I like the way that it ended up looking. So I'm going to hold it up closer so you guys can get a good view or good look at it. You can see I put a little bit of Stickles on, just a few of the bubbles around, and then around her, that swirl around her. And yeah, I think that turned out pretty cool. So that is it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know if you color this page with me, and let me know how you liked it. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you next time. Bye.